Coach Brian, coming to you live from Cafe of Life Chiropractic. And, sometimes through Facebook you meet very interesting people, compelling people. And, Edward Harrington, what a compelling story. Right now, you look at, he's a very successful model in New York City, Versace and Calvin Klein, and on his way to stardom, traveling all over the world. But when he was a kid, it was a different story. A short, fat kid in Chicago that got picked on and bullied. Edward, tell people your story. But first, before you begin, let's look at Edward when he was 10 years old. He brought in a picture. What a contrast, huh? When he was 10 years old. Ed, talk about the early days, what life was like for you growing up in Chicago, getting bullied.
Growing up, it was a little bit tough when I was younger, just because kids look for the first thing that they can really capitalize on, and it gives you something to pick on, and mine just happened to be really easy to see. It was really obvious. And so it started pretty young, and it just continued as I got older, and I kind of developed the personality that allowed me to get picked on when I was younger, just because I got so used to it, and it just kind of became natural, and it got to me a lot. I actually used to walk home from school crying almost every day, and it got pretty upsetting. And eventually I just got tired of it. I was tired of kids picking on me. I was tired of kids calling me names. I was a swimmer when I was younger, and because of my size, even though I was a good swimmer and competing nationally, I still ended up getting the nickname Shamu. And it was just kind of the perfect example of kind of how my childhood went. No matter how good I did in anything, kids still look to that and use that to kind of put me down.
Edward, before you go on, this was a headline in the New York Post from about a couple of weeks ago. And it was about a bully that got so bullied by his tormentor, he couldn't stand it, and he ended up killing his bully tormentor. 14-year-old boy killed another 14-year-old boy who was bullying him constantly. Did you ever think about responding in a violent way to kids who were so mean to you?
My parents had taught me early on just to kind of ignore them. And it's actually something that now, because of the way I've grown up and just kind of the way everything's turned out, I've put a lot of research into it, and it's one of those, any attention you give them, they're going to feed off of, and anything they can get a reaction out of, they're going to capitalize on. And so I realized to really just kind of ignore them, walk away, just honestly pretend they're not there. It's tough because you can't forget what they're saying, and you can't ignore what they're actually saying. You definitely remember it, and it's not something you get over. Honestly, I can still remember a lot of it from when I was a kid, and actually really clearly too. But if you don't give them any attention, eventually they back off a little bit. It never really goes away, but they do back off.
I bet when you were a 10, 11-year-old kid, you never expected to be where you are today. Talk about the transformation of Edward Harrington. What drove you to, be this successful model and change your outlook physically, mentally, spiritually? What was the transformation of Edward Harrington like?
For me, it was really just honestly getting tired of getting picked on. It just got really annoying, and it wasn't something I wanted anymore. So I decided I'd change it, and it was tough at first because most of my family is overweight, and I'm definitely fighting genetics to do this, and I just thought it was impossible to ever look this way, especially this way. It was just something I didn't think was possible, but I just didn't want to be called a fat kid anymore. That was really my only goal when it first started. It helped. I also hit a growth spurt at the same time. But I'd always been active in sports, so it wasn't that I wasn't healthy. I mean, I'd always, been in shape. But it was one of those, it just didn't physically show. And that was mainly because of my diet. But, as I got older and as I educated myself more, I just started changing things. And, with it, my personality has slowly changed. My confidence has come up a little bit, but the stuff that happens when you're younger, it's just so ingrained in you that you just kind of can't let it go. But I actually use it to drive me. I mean, I can honestly tell you there's a lot of times when I'm running, even now, that I still think about it. And it was really just, it was a mindset of I don't want this anymore, and it was something I really wanted to change. I just didn't want people to judge me right off the bat when I first met them. Before they even had a chance to get to know me or anything, that people were judging me before I even got to talk. And it was just something I didn't want anymore. And so I slowly made a change, and it was over years. High school I wasn't as focused on it. But by the time I got to college, my health had kind of become a focus. I was also playing basketball and baseball at the time, and it was one of those, the healthier I was, the more it even helped me with my sports, and eventually got put on a full ride for basketball, and so it became even more important. And as I've gone on with my life, I've realized it's something you need to be able to maintain as you get older. If it just basically helps with your overall happiness, just the way you feel overall, kind of like they talk about here. This is a great facility to have this at, just because it talks about overall well-being. And that's something that really, I guess modeling has helped with, it gives me an idea of how to stay healthy for the rest of my life. And now, since I'm doing it full time, it's forced me to really put a lot of research into how can I maintain this healthy lifestyle for my entire life. So really the mindset, I guess, that I have is that it's something I wanted to change. It was something I was determined at, and it's something I want to sustain.
One of the reasons I brought you on, I was so compelled by your story, is that I feel that people who can watch this video, especially kids that are bullied, this can really serve as an inspiration, especially to overweight kids who are going through what you went through as a young kid.
Yeah, just know if you are out there and you're listening and you are going through something that's similar, it ends. It does. It eventually ends, and you can honestly change anything that you want. I can promise you, I never thought in a million years I would be a model. I never thought I would ever be able to even see my abs, let alone have people taking pictures of them. It's crazy to know that even stuff that is not in your genetics necessarily to do, you can still do, and do it at a high level if you're really dedicated to it. I never in a million years thought this would happen. Just stick with it. The kids will leave you alone eventually. Just focus on yourself. Don't worry about what they're saying.
All right. Before we bring Lovey on, there's an old Jewish word. It's what's called in Hebrew, kvelling. I'm sure your mom listening in Chicago is kvelling right now.
I'm not sure exactly
that means pride.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, my mom's pretty proud of it. She's definitely shown all the teachers. My mom's a preschool teacher, and she actually taught at the grade school. So my parents were actually really involved with the process. But now to know where I am now, yeah, my parents are definitely proud, and they've put in a lot of work along with, I've had some great people in my life. Some people that have really supported me in ways I never would have thought possible. And definitely as a kid, I mean, I can tell you the sport gets better too.
All right.
So.
All right. Before we go, to follow Edward Harrington on Instagram, you can follow him on Instagram at?
It's Edward Harrington with a period in between.
All right. Let's give it up for Edward Harrington. What a great story. And before we bring Lovey on,